everybody. There's a lot of familiar faces in here, but for those of you that I don't know, I'm Emily Windle. I have the privilege and the honor of working firsthand with Delegate Delores Oates. I'm her legislative aide, but also in the room with us is Marla Mooney. She's going to be our fantastic session aide during January and February, and I don't envy her one bit, but she is going to do a fantastic job down in Richmond. I know most of you know what I do, but just in case, I wanted to make sure that you're aware. If you reach out to our office for any constituent services, if you need help with VDOT, the DMV, unemployment, any state agencies, I really take great pride in getting a good resolution as quickly as possible. So I am happy to help you. If you or any of your neighbors or friends need any assistance in those areas, that's one of my primary jobs. The other thing that we work on really hard in our office is responding to every constituent concern. Now, sometimes we miss things, but if I can tell that you are a constituent, if you include your address on an email and you're talking to us about legislation, what you want us to prioritize, I will do everything I can to make sure to get you a prompt response. And we really do take all of your feedback, catalog it, and hang on to it, and we take it seriously. So I'm kind of behind the scenes, but I have my card if you would like our info. We also put out a newsletter, which is in the bottom corner, but if you're not tech savvy or you want me to just add you manually, just see me at the end and I'll make sure that you get our newsletter. It comes out very infrequently during the year. We try not to spam you, but during session we will put out a weekly update with all the bills that are on our radar, all of Delegate Oates' legislation. So we really, during session, do our very best to keep you informed. It'll also be shared on Facebook, but if you're not on social media, our newsletter is probably the best thing to make sure that you are getting. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Delegate Oates, and I'll hang out.
Who doesn't need a mic? So, hey, thank you guys so much for being here tonight. It's the honor of my life to serve the community that I was born in the Virginia House of Delegates. And I've also learned that I'm the first woman who's been elected from Warren County to the Virginia House of Delegates, which is a distinct honor and one that I take great pride in. This year, we have been very busy. We have, the first session that I served in was nonstop. So for those of you who don't know, session is fast and furious. There are thousands of bills, and you are up at 6 a.m., you are in the office by 7. Committee meetings often start at 7 or 7:30. You review legislation proposed by your colleagues, you sit there, you vote, and then you go back to your office, at which point it was a revolving door of visitors all day long into the Virginia House of Delegates. If you haven't come, please do. I would love for you to come see the office, come tour the Capitol. Whether you know this or not, I'm going to share with you that the Virginia House of Delegates is the General Assembly is the longest continuously operating legislature in the Western Hemisphere. That's a big deal, Virginia. That's a really big deal. So, there is, the architecture is extraordinary, and you can just come and enjoy that if you want. There's history everywhere. And it's just a wonderful place to be, and you can feel, I tell Emily, you can feel the presence of those who've served before you. It's just an incredible honor. As a fact, when I first sat on the House floor, I cried. It was overwhelming to sit in the house that Thomas Jefferson built. So I take this very seriously, and that was why we decided to offer this opportunity tonight to come in, listen to our legislative priorities, understand what our office is focused on for this 2025 session. And so I've given you guys a handout. We're going to make this can be kind of informal, but our office is very interested in supporting women and women's issues. And so this past year, I carried the Women in Sports bill, which protects women's sports and honors the intention of why we've created the protections for women's sports, so that biological men don't participate in women's sports. There is, I carried the bill. I had no animus. There was no bigotry. It was about fairness for women, especially women who have committed their entire academic careers to sports, to improve themselves, to gain a scholarship, and to potentially lose that due to someone who biologically is bigger, stronger, muscle mass is different. And so I will be carrying that bill again this year. It's very important that we protect the rights of women, and so I will be carrying that. I want to talk to you guys about increasing maternal health care. Rural communities, there's just this incredibly obvious urban and rural divide. And yes, extremely obvious. Excuse me, I'm going to get some water. Women, so what has occurred is over time the healthcare systems have consolidated. And doing that, they've taken maternal and OBGYN care from hospitals. And so women are having to travel extreme distances for checkups, for deliveries, for a variety of the services that we had in our community when I was, of birthing age. We had those opportunities in Warren County. They're no longer here. And so you have to drive to Winchester, Leesburg, Fauquier, to get, or Harrisonburg, to get, yes. And because of that, then the doctors have also left, and they've moved to the locations where they are available for delivery. It just makes common sense. So I have been working with some of the healthcare folks and talk about what can we do to mitigate that. Is that a mobile checkup unit? Maybe, I don't know, but our office is actively working to discuss what are the options that we could provide so that women have their children safely and have no issues and are able to get the care. My concern about women, especially in the maternal area, is that women who can least afford to take off from work are going to be able to travel for an hour to go get a checkup. And you ladies know that at the end, it's the rhythm is every 2 weeks, and then at the last month, it's every week. So you have the people who can least afford to travel, having to travel to achieve a healthy baby and a healthy outcome. And since this consolidation has occurred, the maternal outcomes have declined, and we're not going in the right direction. So and those statistics are out there. Now there is a rural health care committee. I was not appointed to that committee, but there is a committee in the House that is reviewing what options we can, and it isn't just for maternal health care, but for rural health care in general. Rural communities have fewer options. They have fewer specialists, they have fewer opportunities for health care. So what can we do to mitigate that and to offer rural communities the same kinds of services as best we can? So those are some of the items that are being considered in the Virginia House of Delegates. We are also working, my office is very interested in protecting women from being victims. And so one of the items that we will be carrying this year is a stalking bill. And then another bill that we're going to carry is a bill that will, so if you have I'll give you a perfect example. If you have a protection order against a significant other, if they put an air tag on your car to track you, which we've got all of these mobile devices, it's a misdemeanor. And so women are at risk when they are trying to, go to a safe place, and men even. I'm not isolating that. Potentially men could be at risk, but someone shouldn't be able to track you if you have a protection order against them. So That's one of the things that I'm working on in protecting women as we move forward. The other things that I'm focused on is we're working in education. So let's talk about this rural and urban divide again. So the model for funding, it's called the funding model, the LCI. There are all these components that are factored in to the composite index, the local composite index. Is that what that stands for? Yeah, the local composite index is, there are a whole lot of factors, and a lot of it do not take into consideration large parcels of real estate that aren't being used for development. So we are working on, with other legislators, we're working on trying to figure out how to moderate those types of issues. We would like for rural communities to be as well funded in public education as our counterparts in Northern Virginia. And there's a huge divide in the percentage that they receive versus the percentage that we receive. And our teachers are being paid less, and we're losing large volumes of teachers to the Northern Virginia. They can commute to Loudoun County and make $20,000 to $25,000 more a year. So our educators have come to us, all of them actually, I think all three of the folks that I represent, all of the superintendents, the school superintendents, Frederick, Warren, and Clark, who are very concerned about losing teachers on a regular basis to Loudoun County and to Fairfax and to Prince William. So we have to figure out how to mitigate that. Rural children deserve an education as much as urban children. So we have to figure out what is it that we can do that will make that equalize those funding models. So we've been working on that. Let's see, improving career and technical education. So I have to tell you, I'm a graduate of Lord Fairfax Community College, which is now called Laurel Ridge. And it was a lifesaver for me as a young mother who could not go to a four-year university. I graduated from that school a long time ago. So yeah, a significant amount of time ago. I think it's my 40th anniversary is coming up soon. But anyway, I am very, very involved in helping develop additional opportunities for career and technical education. I want to also do that in the secondary schools, in elementary and secondary. I think that kids who learn, all children learn differently, and we know that. We know by our own experience with our own kids that I have 3 sons, every one of them has learned differently. So giving them opportunities to learn in a way that isn't sitting at a desk all day, telling them that there's something wrong with them because they can't hold still. So I would like to see exposure to the career and technical opportunities when they're young. We want to capture imaginations in robotics and all of these emerging technologies, and you can't do that if you're never exposed to those things. And by the time they get to middle school, sometimes it's too late. Sometimes it is. So we are working on that. We're going to bring that back this year. I am a school choice candidate. I know there are a lot of folks, and we have varying opinions on that, but I believe that every child learns uniquely, and we need to give parents the option to decide what's best for their kids and how they learn. Again, I have 3 sons. I've been through the public school system, the private school system, and I homeschooled. So I have had every different experience, because my sons are unique learners, and I wanted to prepare them in the best way that I could. Well, I could afford to do that, but not everybody can. And it's not fair that if you can't, I mean, we have school choice. It's just for people who can afford to do it. Yeah. So I would love to see opportunities for young people who don't learn in a traditional way to have that opportunity for their parents to be able to find solutions and educate them to give them the best chance at being successful in this life. So that is one of my other issues. And let's see, I am advocating, I told you about the funding formula. I'm also carried a bill last year which would allow parents to know what data was being mined on students' Chromebooks. Parents should know what data is being collected on their kids. They're our children. So that is, I will be carrying that again. And it didn't get through last year, but you know, I've learned, so lessons learned. So I've learned some lessons from last session. And I think that, you know, we've tweaked the bill. We're going to work on making it a little bit more comprehensive and a little clearer, and I think maybe we might be able to get it through this year. We're hopeful for that. I will always support the Second Amendment. Yeah, period. We will be carrying potentially a bill, but it isn't ready for prime time, but it will relate to Second Amendment rights and concealed carry permits. So we're working on that. I'll support legislation that gives local communities the right to make decisions about their communities and not some central government in Richmond saying you have to consider a solar project. That was attempted last year. There was a bill that was brought forward, and you guys know I've been a local supervisor, and so there's a bill brought forward last year, and that bill says that you have to give it a hearing, even if it's not in your comprehensive plan. So I voted no, and no. Because number one, if you have to give it a hearing, knowing that your community has decided not to consider a solar farm or solar project in their community, and they have in their comprehensive plan agriculture and industrial and other things, you have to dedicate resources and money, all kinds of things, to considering a plan that you know you're not going to vote positively for because it's not in your comprehensive plan. It's foolish. It's just foolish. So anyway, if that bill comes back up, then I can assure you that I will be voting no again. I want local government to be able to make decisions on what's best for their local communities, and that's very important. And so data centers are the same thing, right? They, you know, a little bit by little bit, they want you to have to consider this if somebody comes to your community, even if your community if you want your community to maintain a rural character. And I've heard loud and clear in Warren and in Clark, leave us alone. We want to stay small and rural. And so I want to help our communities who do maximize their tourism potential, because that's what we've got to sell, is this beautiful community, the natural resources, the river. I'm working on water things, by the way, because water is essential to the success of an economy. So we're working in conjunction on how we can help Frederick, Warren, and Clark with the river problems. We all know they exist. So those are some of the things that we're looking for solutions. We don't have all the answers, and we're not experts, but we do seek out the experts, and we ask for their solutions. So those are some of the items I'm working on. Let's see. My office, well, my office is always open to you. Most of you have my dang cell phone number. So if you need me, you can text me, you can reach out. Those are some items that we're working on. We just wanted to inform you tonight, take a half an hour of your time, give you the opportunity to ask questions. And so I think Emily is collecting questions. So unless there's anything else, I'm good to answer whatever I can.
All right, I've got some notes because some of these are specific, so I'll
Okay.
But you've touched on school choice, so I feel like that one is covered. What can you talk about with veterans, keeping them in Virginia? Any of the things you saw last session specific to veterans?
So veterans, that's near and dear to me. My husband happens to be an Air Force veteran. So one of the things I want to tell you, I'm going to tell them the story about our hive. So in Winchester, the hive just opened. So it stands for Hub for Innovation, Veterans, and Entrepreneurs. And so this is the great thing, when you get to marry what you do every day with the potential to help local citizens. I work in technology, and 5G is a big deal, a real big deal. And so I have connected the Hive to some folks that I know who are in technology, who are looking to develop workforce in the 5G world. And so it's in its infancy, so I can't give you a lot of details yet. But veterans are the target for maybe the National Guard. And exactly, so there are a lot of opportunities, and I'm very active on the military caucus in Richmond, and I want to do everything I can to find out how we keep veterans in Virginia, their skills, their citizenship, their patriotism. We want you here. So we will work to see, we can't carry, by the way, you can only carry 15 bills this session, because this is the short session, and so we are limited to 15 plus 5. You can add 5, I think, once you submit your bills, you can add 5 more after that. So Emily, we're carrying 15, correct?
We already have 8 in the system. We have a list that exceeds, that would get us well over 15. So I anticipate we'll have all 15, and any bills that we can share with our colleagues in the House will be passed along. And yeah,
Absolutely.
There should be no reason why we're so short.
Yep, so anything with the veterans, and if there's anything where you as a veteran see a gap, call our office. So we say we don't know what we don't know, and so we need people to tell us what we don't know and how we can help you and where the gaps are, because it's not our lived experience. So yes. So Emily, yes, go ahead.
I think that was my question.
It was.
But I just want to thank you for coming out to our veterans event the other day at the Elks and spending time with us at our breakfast, and also coming over to the Virginia National Guard Armory and learning about all the things that we can do to support our citizen soldiers here in the community. So you're doing great work, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's my honor.
On that topic, I'll also highlight that last year, the Gold Star tuition program was cut from the budget, and Delegate Oates had to go back to Richmond several times to advocate for getting that funding back.
Yeah, that was VEMSTEP.
Yeah.
So VEMSTEP, these are Gold Star families, and so it was a tuition program, and it was removed from the budget, kind of without anybody knowing it was missing, and until somebody realized, where's the VEMSTEP program? Yeah, so we corrected that, went back to session, corrected that, and the VEMSTEP program was fully available to. So VEMSTEP was basically the Virginia Education and Military Program. Do you know that? I all these acronyms.
Oh, I know. It's so long.
Anyway, education tuition assistance for the children's spouses of someone who's been either killed in action or or 100% disabled. Yeah.
But we have another great question, and it talks about data mining. So Delegate Oates carried a bill to protect students from data mining on their Chromebooks. But can you give the crowd a little background as to how are they collecting students' data, and what was the bill that you carried intended to do?
So the bill that we carried was simple. The bill basically just wanted a report to parents on what was being collected on their children. So all the time, if a child goes to an inappropriate website, that data is collected. If a child seeks out information God forbid, on suicide or something, that information is data mined. People can see those places that they're going. So what this bill was, simple. Give parents a report of what you have captured in the last 3 months. And that was it. That was simple, but it didn't pass.
It didn't even make it to the floor.
No, it didn't. It didn't, I didn't get it out of committee.
Not yet.
Why? What was the reason?
So I don't know. You'd have to ask the people who voted no. We don't get information based on. Yeah, Steve, I will answer something for you.
Are the schools already restricting those kinds of things to begin with?
So they can restrict them to some degree, but if you're surfing, you can surf. Now, there are firewalls, but Steve, my kids can figure out how to get around my firewall at home. They can. These kids are so tech savvy, it's crazy. So I'll give you a personal story. So my children hate this, especially if it's going to be on Royal Examiner. But so we had net nanny years ago, network nanny. And so a couple of the boys were upstairs, and we got notification. And my husband, I saw him, boom, upstairs. I said, what's going on? He said, the boys were somewhere they weren't supposed to be. And that's all I knew. But these kids could figure out how to get around it. They're very tech savvy, very tech savvy. And nothing is secure. I'm completely. Willie?
Thank you for being a strong pro-life delegate.
Sure.
Very, very important. I think this constitutional amendment fight over the next 2 years is the most important fight we've got going on in the state. Can you just kind of walk everybody through what's going on and what the process is and what we're up against?
So yesterday in the Privileges and Elections Committee, there were 3 amendments put forward. And the one was a constitutional amendment to enshrine women's reproductive rights in the Constitution of Virginia. They added a substitute before the meeting, and the substitute included late-term abortion. Right now, if you have a late-term abortion in Virginia, you have to get 3 doctors who agree on the need for that late-term abortion. And this would reduce that to 1 doctor. And it was up to the point of birth. I am very emotional about this issue because, as many of you know, I was a 16-year-old mom. And I have the most wonderful son. And I can't imagine missing out on him because it was a crisis situation. I have a lot of compassion for women who are in crisis situations. I have mentored teen moms. I ran an organization that was a ministry to teen moms. But I cannot imagine terminating the life of a child at 6 months gestation. I cannot even imagine. I felt my son move at 3 months or less. And I can't imagine. I will vehemently oppose this bill. I will vehemently oppose this bill. So,
Good job.
yes.
So on that, what can we do in our communities to get the word out, and what can we do to?
You have to tell people that this is being considered. I really do not believe any of my friends who are even pro-choice believe that this is necessary. I don't believe that. I have a lot of young friends who are pro-choice, and I know that they cannot believe that this is necessary in the state of Virginia. Why would we enshrine in the Virginia Constitution infanticide? Why would we do that? I can't even imagine. And the other thing is that if a child is viable, you can deliver the child. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to me, the need to terminate the child. And I want you to know, I'm going to use some gruesome things. They cut the spinal cord of a baby. Partial birth abortion is, yes, the back of the neck.
Can you tell them about the process to clarify?
So typically, these things do not happen until the session. And so this was out of character They called a meeting, but the agenda wasn't shared until the night before. And then yesterday, the amendment was added, the substitute was added
5 minutes before.
5 minutes before. The Republicans asked for time to consider it, 30 minutes. They were given 5. And we're happy to send you the link. I want you to watch the meeting for yourself, because I don't want you to take my word for what happened yesterday. I would like for you to watch the meeting. I would like for you to watch the testimony, because I found it astonishing. Emily's expecting, so we cried a lot yesterday. But anyway, I will vehemently fight against this amendment.
And it's a 2-year process, so should it go through the House and the Senate this session, there is an election in between, and then it will come back up again next session. And then there will be a referendum. So it's not a one and done.
No.
But they are certainly starting the process.
Right, to change the Constitution of Virginia, you have to have an election in between. So you have the constitutional amendment will be presented on the floor, and then there will be an election, and then again, the second year it'll be reheard, and then it'll go to referendum on the ballot for Virginians to vote.
Just to clarify, it has to make it out of the second session, too.
Correct.
Before it goes to.
Correct. So if we went in November,
So we have 3 chances to defeat it.
yeah. Yes.
Kind of along that lines, we just had a nice meeting, but we're talking about March for Life and, going to DC, and that's done that a couple of times, but focusing more going down to Richmond. I think that's in April.
Yes.
And there's 2 events down. There's March for Life, and there's one other session or thing along that lines down there too, that asking to go to both. But it just seems to me that there's more effort to focus on Richmond now. Kind of the federal side's been turned over to the states now.
Correct.
To focus on that. And the other thing is it seems like there's so much effort. This legislation, any time along late abortion and all. But then there's a lot of other things helpful for women having kids and, ultrasound or after they have kids and all, to focus on legislation maybe to help on that end to offset all this, late-term abortion
I
and all.
absolutely agree that what women want is somebody to walk beside them. They want support.
Right.
And so those are the areas where we need to work. We need to work on helping women who are in crisis situations feel like they have somebody who cares and somebody to walk beside them. As a 16-year-old who had a son, my mom, my grandmother were very supportive of me, and they cared for Jason, and it made all the difference. And I'm standing here today to just be an example that your life doesn't end because you're in a crisis situation. You will get through, and you will be amazed at how resilient you are. So that's the message that I want to send to women who are in crisis and want to help them.
What's Virginia doing to make adoption easier?
That
'Cause
we.
that all goes right in here.
And I can't answer that question for you right at this moment, but I believe that those are items that are on our, there's only so much you can get
Right,
done,
no.
unfortunately, in the timeframes we're given, but yes, absolutely.
You ready for a different topic?
Let's go.
Okay, we had a specific question about HB 47, and I gotta tell you guys, Delegate Oates is good. Like during session, if I said HB 47, she'd be like, yeah, I know, but it's been about a year. So this was the bill on invasive plant notifications and why you voted no to posting signage in front of invasive plants. And I pulled up our notes from last session in case you need it.
So you may have to remind me of
Okay.
the bill. It's been a long time. So was that where the big box stores would have to put up a
All of
sign?
them.
All the
Yeah.
stores, any
And so-
retail?
Yes, and so some of our notes had to do with the local mom and pop nurseries supporting small business. we would hate to penalize a small business that failed to comply quickly with a fine and new legislation. So we really talked about the government overreach into our small businesses with that piece of legislation. We also talked about the challenge that localities like Winchester would face. We're so close to Martinsburg and going over the border, so having, you're still going to get invasive plants into our communities different ways. So our notes had a lot of things along those lines. There was a bit of a fiscal impact that we had talked about.
Fiscal impact was the thing.
Fiscal impact often plays into a lot of our decisions. And I think we also linked this legislation with things like the leaf blower bill and things that were just like, is this the role of government, right?
Right. And I am all for native species, by the way. I have native species. I have a friend who's very educated on this topic, and she's helped me a lot. But I don't know that putting additional financial burden on retail is the way to mitigate the problem.
However, you're supporting rural and farms and that kind of thing. Invasives cause $1 billion damage to farms every year in Virginia. So we have to make, it seems to me that it would be wise to make some kind of measures to limit that.
Do you think, though, Steve, that the invasive farm species are from people planting at their homes or from?
I'm sure it happens all kinds of.
Because, so I've been out at Blandy a lot, and one of the things that Blandy studies this, and one of the things is that, birds bring their droppings, and invasive is everywhere. So it isn't, I don't know that we would solve the problem with the
Of course,
retail.
but should we abet that and let it happen, or should we?
No,
Should we educate people to let them know that it's happening?
Sure.
Because we've got invasives bringing in the SLF stuff and all kinds of things happening to agriculture here.
Right, but I just, at this point in an inflationary environment where small business was struggling, it didn't just seem like the right solution at this point. But I've been at Blandy, I love Blandy, I love what they're doing out there. I have an invasive species in my yard. My husband would love to get rid of this thing, but it's just, no matter if you tear it down, it comes back over and over again. So anyway, anything else?
Just when you mentioned that, I think our daughter-in-law is having somebody come out, maybe it's Virginia Extension, to look at.
They do.
And then, I was thinking, I may do that, because I may not know I have 6 acres, I'm not sure.
The Virginia Extension Office offers extraordinary assistance with these types of issues. And they will give you seeds and free plants so that you can replace some of these invasive items. Everybody got into the whole exotic manicured lawn thing. It was the big, it was a big trend when you built, and that's what's created a lot of these problems. And so now if, there is a movement to go back to native species for Virginia and to not spray I don't have my lawn treated anymore. We just don't do those things, but you don't know what you don't know until they reveal the problem. So that's, so it's an ongoing process.
I also want to make sure that you highlight some of the budget amendments. Last year, Delegate Oates brought over $2 million back to Clark County, but this year we were really proactive in making sure that all of the localities in our district had the opportunity to present budget amendments or things that they needed to the delegate, and she has 5 different budget amendments that she will carry this year.
Yeah, so we're trying to make sure, so one of the things that I observed as a citizen was we paid a lot of taxes to Richmond, but we didn't get a lot back. And so one of the items that one of the initiatives that we've taken on is we have gone to the counties and we have said, what projects do you need assistance with? And Clark County I'm going to tell you, Clark County has set the standard for legislative priorities. As soon as I was elected last year, 3 days later, I don't even think it was 3 days, it might have been 2.
It was in our inbox before we even had the password to the inbox.
Exactly, and they wanted to meet and talk about what they needed, and so we were able to secure some money for Claremont Farm, which needed to rebuild a barn that had burned 5 years before, and their insurance had been sitting in a Virginia bank account But because of Virginia building standards, state building standards, they needed additional funds to build it, and we were able to secure that. And then we also secured the, what else?
The Burwell.
The Burwell Morgan Mill, and that dam is now secure so that that mill stays operational for children and for everyone. That mill is amazing, by the way. It's one of the longest operating mills, and most of you know I love history, and that is, I think that's why God planted me right here in this area. So, but this year we're going to be carrying other bills for different counties for different items.
Speaking of the budget, did Frederick County put in any provision or budget requests for like a fire station in the southern part of Frederick County here? Because a lot of the homeowners, the insurance companies are dropping them, especially in the Lake Frederick area, because the fire stations are too far away.
And I'm not familiar with that, no, I'm sorry.
Well, what was Frederick County's?
So we're doing a transportation project for, to make Sharando safer.
Yep, and we're also looking at Middletown increasing ADA compliance.
Right. Those sorts of things. Yes, sir.
From a defense attorney perspective, you mentioned the stalking charge and what you're looking at.
Yeah.
So what are you proposing as the amendment to stalking, or otherwise adding a new stalking charge?
So we'll be happy to share that with you. I don't have all the bills in front of me, but I'm happy to share with you what our proposal is. And so this is how it works. So we propose a bill, we send it to Richmond, and we have a legislative services group, and those guys write the bill. And so right now, we're still going back and forth on what exactly we want to change, but the general idea is that we would increase the penalty for stalking from a misdemeanor.
On a separate note, you mentioned that you're looking into addressing some of the water issues that are coming up within the counties that you serve.
Yes.
How are you looking at it from the perspective that, for example, Shenandoah River, obviously that spans much further than just 3 counties that you serve? Just generally, I understand you want the bill.
Generally, the approach is to do a regional effort with like one of the Northern Virginia, like the Northern Virginia Regional Planning Commission, and some of those folks that represent multiple counties, and we would all come together. That hasn't happened yet. That's like I will just tell you, that's just like a pie in the sky idea. But the Virginia General Assembly is encouraging water solutions in a regional manner, not in the county by county, town by town, the way we're doing it now.
And I just note because.
So we need reservoirs. We need, we need to capture the water when we can. And so that, so that we can prepare for the drought scenarios. And I am not a hydrologist. I don't know much about all of these things, but we are talking to people who do. So that's one of the things that we're doing. So anyway, in closing, we go to just about everything we can to listen to citizens. If you know of an issue or an organization that would like to have us present, we are happy to do that today. We went to the awards for soil and water conservation, and we were able to celebrate with them. And we try to go, we went to the veterans things, we try to talk to veterans. We try to be everywhere we can within time limits, time constraints. We also go to Richmond on a regular basis. So I'm just to let you know the committees that I'm on the Public Safety Committee. I'm also on Counties, Cities, and Towns, CCT. And those are local issues. That's where all of the bills that come through that would have an impact to you locally are heard, where we would change laws that would take away or expand localities' rights and to determine their own destinies. So I'm on that, but I've also been appointed to 2 commissions, and I'm on the Commission for Small Business, which I'm very excited about, and we're working on some things to propose in the assembly there. And I'm on the Commission for Civics Education. And that is very near and dear to me because I am a government major, and I've been involved in government and politics and probably for 2 decades. And so, but the fire was lit when I was a kid. And Warren County used to take all of their students to Capitol Hill or to downtown DC. And we went to the Smithsonian, but we passed Capitol Hill. And I have to tell you, there was an energy that I felt. So anyway, that was the spark that created all this. So I want to give kids those opportunities so that they can imagine for themselves. And so being on that commission is really important to me, and I'm going to be actually in the work group to establish how we can expand opportunities for young people to be involved in civics education.
When is the next legislation session?
So I will be in Richmond, it's the first Wednesday after January, after the second Wednesday? The 8th. January the 8th till February 20-something.
I'm supposed to have a baby tonight, so.
I just kind of show up when they tell me 45 days.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't know the exact calendar dates. But Marla will be with me, and so if you call my office in Richmond, Marla Mooney will be the person that you will reach on the phone, either her. We also have an administrative assistant. Her name is Debbie. So if you call my office during session, you will reach one of them. If you want to come visit, you will reach them, and we'll, it's hard to tell where I'll be, but if I'm in my office, you come see me. Emily's busy having a baby in January.
But if you'd like to schedule, I know some people have already scheduled that they're coming to visit, I will put you tentatively on the calendar and coordinate all of that beforehand. But I really would encourage you to come visit. Delegate Oates also will be recognizing a lot of different great community organizations on the floor. She did so the past session, and then she brought all those commending resolutions back to the community and presented them. It's like one of the good feel-good things, because I feel like you talked about a lot of heavy topics, but there's also a lot of great community recognition that her office does.
Yeah, if you know somebody that you want to honor who's done great things in the community, we can write commending resolutions. There are also memorial resolutions for those who've contributed great things to their community but may have passed on. And so we are able to do those. And then organizations, nothing makes us happier than to be on the floor. And so when you're on the floor of the House and you can say, they recognize you, and they always say that I'm the delegate from Warren. That's because that's where I live, not just where I represent. And, and we say, I rise for an introduction, and that's to introduce the people who are visiting the House that day. And that is it's a great way, and you get to stand up and be recognized, and they have television screens on all sides, and so you get up on the screens. And it's live streamed, by the way. Hi, Delane. It's live streamed, and so you're able to do that. Ted?
Question. Isn't there some sort of rules about donations when you're in session, and what you can do as far as fundraising? When is the cutoff time before?
The day before, well, it's midnight on January 8th, and you cannot fundraise while you're in session.
So we should give you the donations before.
Give me the donations before.
Or after?
Yeah.
No for end of year report.
Yes, there is. That is, and that's a good rule. You should not be able to raise money while you're in session. I like that rule. So, yes. Anything else? Yes?
Well, he kind of stole my question, because I was going to say we're all focused on the next General Assembly session coming up, but there is an election after that, and are you planning on running again? And I hope to be your first contributor.
Thank you. I'll make an announcement very soon.
And school choice and veteran stuff, West Virginia and North Carolina are beating us.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, they are. So anything that you
North
can continue
Carolina's
to-
eating our lunch.
Exactly. So anything you can do in those areas is great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you all very much. I do want you to know that if you want to talk to me one-on-one about anything, I'm a coffee addict. So, in fact, an IV would be probably preferred, but I'll meet you at a coffee shop. We frequent DL on Main and the Daily Grind and the Back 40 and Stephen City. What's the one in Stephen City? We hang out to those. And then over in Berryville, we go over to the little coffee shop over there too. I can't remember the names of all of them. I know where they are. Thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it.